Welcome to Creativity Unfiltered. In this episode, I am talking to the lovely Laurel of Laurel Mae Art, and she shares a lot of insights about her Etsy, her Patreon, managing burnout, and various different challenges she's faced whilst running her small business. All right, so I'm joined with Laurel from Laurel Mae Art. So nice to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So straight up, Laurel, I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the creative world.
So I'm an illustrator and I also have an online store and I make videos and stuff online too.
Yes, and I've seen you make a lot of TikToks, right? I feel like that's where it all began, maybe?
Yeah, it all started for me on TikTok sort of during lockdown sort of time. Obviously when TikTok was at its sort of height, I was basically just sharing things I was doing, and it kind of just was the perfect sort of timing for me in terms of what was popular and people were just on their phones and stuff. So yeah, I do a lot of TikTok and reels and some sort of vlogs too, but not quite as regular as say you.
No, vlogs are like a whole other level. They take a lot more planning, a lot longer editing.
I don't know how you even do it. Like every week I see your vlogs and I'm like, how does she continue push vlog after vlog out? Because I do one and then like for weeks I'm like, can't do that. Too much editing, too much time.
I feel like I'm just stuck in like the long form mind frame where I'm so used to making like really long YouTube videos, whereas I feel like you've like nailed the TikTok Reels short situation, and I need to learn from you because I do not know how to do that.
Well, I feel the complete opposite. I'm like, I need to learn how to be doing vlogs every week because I feel that's just the way forward.
Amazing. And actually, fun fact, I don't know if you remember this, Laurel, when we met up once and it was New Year's and I was very drunkenly telling you needed to open an Etsy store, and I probably said it to you a lot of times. Can you remember that?
I do remember, yeah.
I think it was still when did you work in retail?
Yeah, I think it was when I was doing commissions, but I still worked in retail. So I was kind of like, had like one foot in and then was also had a crap job as well at the same time.
Yeah. So what made you like make the jump? Was there a specific moment or something that sort of inspired you to just get it done?
It was more of like a gradual thing, to be fair. Like I was doing the commissions alongside, and then I think the main thing that made me go onto Etsy was that I was doing commissions and I was kind of just doing them sort of like via like PayPal transfer, like word of mouth and stuff. And then I had a bad commission where someone basically just ghosted me and never paid me. And it made me kind of, I don't know, I was like, I don't really know if I want to do this in the same way because I just don't feel like it's safe, like in terms of just, I'm putting all this work in and it's quite risky. So that I had an Etsy shop so people would pay me like upfront, and also obviously people would find me on there. So that was like a gradual progression. And then I just started sort of doing sort of art prints and stuff on there that I could just print myself. And then it just sort of snowballed, really. It wasn't kind of, it's very gradual.
I think that's good though, because then you can sort of like get used to one thing before like jumping in too deep and like overwhelming yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then I sort of had like that element of people would sort of have like commissions from me and then they'd say, oh, could you do it as a print? So I'd be like, well, maybe I could. So then I'd do them as prints and I'd be like, why don't I just do prints? And then, well, if I'm doing prints, maybe I should start doing stickers. And then it just kind of, it's a gradual thing really then.
Like snowballed. And now I looked at your Etsy last week. You've got like 20,000 sales or something, right?
I think so.
That's mad. I was like, that is so impressive. And I'm like the little fangirl and I was like, I was there at the beginning talking her ear off. Like, you should do this. But yeah, have you got any tips for like selling on Etsy? Like, how do you navigate that? I know things have changed a lot with like the percentages they take. Like, how sort of have you navigated with that kind of thing?
I now have an Etsy shop and a Shopify, so my own domain now. So basically I push anyone that's like, when I promote towards my shop. So then people go there, but then I have Etsy more as like a sort of more organic, sort of people can find me there and then maybe they'll come across to my other shop, because obviously the fees Etsy take now are quite a lot and I'd rather push more people to go to my shop. But I kind of understand that a lot of people are more comfortable with Etsy. So I keep it open and it's like a nice little additional to my shop. So I kind of have both of them going, but I'd say sort of start small and like what you can make yourself, do that and then work towards bigger things. Like when I started, obviously I didn't have all the equipment and stuff I have now, but I kind of would be like, I had a printer, not a good one, but had a printer. So I used that until I could afford to get a better one. And then just kind of like, again, just a gradual progress, sort of work towards different goals of things you want to buy for your business and reinvest the money that you do make on certain things into new equipment so you can make different things. And it's just kind of a slow but steady process like that.
Yeah, I think it's important for people like looking to start to remember, like, looking at you now as like this established business with so many sales and all this equipment. It didn't start like that, and not to sort of like think, oh God, I need all this before I can do it. It's literally, like you said, just starting with a couple of prints and commissions and then going with it from there.
Yeah, exactly. Like starting out, I had a £30 printer and a dream. That's all that was there. So just working out of our spare bedroom. So honestly, it's just using what you've got and you'll get sort of towards the goals that you're setting if you just keep going.
Your art style, have you sort of developed that over time? I feel like it's quite like whimsical, fairy tale. And I think I remember talking to you about this previously, like you've been drawing for years, right? And it's just sort of, again, snowboard into something. So do you say you have a specific art style? Did you kind of fall into that? Was it intentional?
It was definitely just sort of, again, I keep saying everything's gradual, but it is. It was kind of one of these things where I definitely started, and I remember like comparing myself to people that had these really established art styles and being like, wow, like I just wish I had that. And just kind of everything I drew was a bit different when I first started out. But I think a lot of it's kind of sort of taking things from different people, learning things from how other people do things, and then adapting it sort of in your own way. And for me, I think it just come if you just draw things that you like. Slowly it'll kind of start adapting to things. I keep saying everything's gradual, but it really is like a very gradual thing that happens, because for me, it definitely, when I look at what I started with and my style now, is almost completely different how I started now. So, but there's still things that I draw the same way, because that's just kind of, I don't know, I think it's just taking inspiration from things you see around you, not even just other people's art, just things in life. Slowly you'll kind of find a way that sort of, when you look at it, if it makes you smile and you're like, oh, this brings me joy to draw it in this way. And then just, it's a difficult one. I think art style is really hard to get to a point. I'm still at a point now where I'm like not fully happy. And even the way I'm drawing now is completely different the way I drew a year ago today, because it's just a constant changing thing. So I don't know if I answered that very well.
No, I think you did. Like, it's not an overnight thing, and it's always going to change. Like, you could sit and think, right, I'm really happy with how this is, and then look at it again in a year and think, actually, no, let's tweak this. Have you like gone back and recreated your old work before?
Yeah, it's just like a really good exercise to sort of, I don't know, see how you've changed. And this, you might think that a year later you draw something exactly the same, but it's actually crazy how much in a year it'll look completely different. And I used to do like a series of drawings. I've not done it in a while actually, but I had this drawing that I did a long time ago, and I used to sort of redraw it like every 2 years. And it's just crazy the difference that can happen just in a 2-year period. It's definitely a great exercise to see what you've learned and what you've picked up, because it's kind of a mixture of skill and inspiration that's kind of changed the way you're going to draw something in that sort of period of time. But yeah, I definitely think that's just probably even a good tip to do to help develop art style and just improve as well.
It helps people see like the progression as well, right? Like, because I feel like, I don't know about you, when I'm sort of creating things, mine's graphic design wise, I feel like I'm not improving. Then actually, if I stop for a second and go back to maybe like my uni portfolio or something, like, wait, I have actually, like, this looks rubbish compared to what I'm doing now. Like, I've actually improved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is good just to stop sometimes and stop yourself and just look back and be like, I was there and now I'm here. And I think it's definitely very valuable to do that every now and then.
Especially with the introduction of social media, how do you find the time to sort of stop and like process? Because I know you mentioned sort of taking time for inspiration in the world, and it's so easy. I don't know about you, when I'm on my phone, I'm like, oh, I could be doing this, I could be doing this. I need time as a creative to take things in, to like consume stuff, whether it's just going for a walk or whether it's reading a book or watching a film. How do you find time to do that alongside actually getting stuff done and being productive?
It is a struggle, to be honest. I feel like a big help is that my partner works from home and I kind of go around his schedule a lot more. Whereas I think if I just was by myself at home half the time, I would just probably work too much, whereas he's kind of like always pushing me to kind of take breaks. And otherwise, I don't know, I think I would very much struggle to take as much time as I do. But I feel like I've got into a good routine with sort of having weekends off and not checking sort of work things and just spending that time doing things I actually want to do. But it is difficult because drawing's kind of one of those things where you're kind of constantly doing it. And even when I'm on the sofa watching TV, I've probably got my iPad out and I'm probably drawing, because it's kind of difficult when it's kind of your hobby and also your job. So the lines are a bit blurred. So doesn't feel like work, but it is kind of, you're still working. So it is difficult. I'd mainly say just having another person that
I'm sort of the same. My boyfriend works shifts, so I try and match his rota. His is not Monday, Friday though. So then there is occasions like I'll just like, have 3 days off like he does, but he's on a night shift and I'm clearly not going to work at night. So I definitely need to work on giving myself that time and having some structure in it, because it is important, isn't it, to sort of just be and not just pick up your phone and compare yourself to lots of people all the time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, like you said, when it's just so easy to go on your phone and see other people, the comparison, everyone seems like they're working hard all the time and you're just thinking like, what am I doing? And it makes you feel guilty for having time to yourself as well. You're like, oh, I should be working 24/7 if I want to be as successful as these other people. But the only thing with that is you're just going to get burnt out if that's sort of the way you live your life. So you kind of have to just take a step back. I think being away from your phone is probably one of the best things you can do in sort of your downtime, because otherwise it's just going to plague your mind 24/7.
100%. And like, what do you do in your downtime? I'm intrigued. Like, my new go-to is crochet. It's like I'm still moving my hands. Oh, it's so good.
I really, really want to crochet, and I don't know if I've got one of those brains that just can't do it, because every time I've tried, I've struggled, and I just want to be able to do it so bad. But I like to play games. I have a Switch, so I play Stardew Valley a lot. That's kind of one of my favorite comfort things to do, and I like reading. It's annoying that drawing's also kind of one of them. I still kind of don't associate as work, but it depends what I'm working on. If I'm kind of just doing it for myself, it's relaxing. So I'm a bit of a homebody, so everything that I like to do is just at home on the sofa in a blanket, really. But
me too. I'm not all about like, oh, I'm gonna go and wind down by socializing outside and talking to people. I'm gonna snuggle myself up, get cozy, get a nice snack, and that's me done for the night.
Absolutely. Honestly, the people that say they go out on Sunday and go and hike or something, power to you, but I just could not. I could not.
Just sort of going back a little bit, you mentioned using your iPad. What kind of equipment do you use? I'm just sort of interested to see from someone else's perspective what like maybe they could use themselves.
So it's an iPad Pro, and I use Procreate to draw, and then the Apple Pencil. And then I do use Photoshop for making things into products and stuff, just because it's a bit more extensive for that kind of thing. But that's all I'm using at the moment, really, just those two programs.
In terms of social media, how have you utilised that in growing your business? You mentioned that you used TikTok and sort of made the most of that in lockdown when everyone was on there. Do you have sort of a strategy that you follow? Have you got like ways you do certain things on different platforms? Tell us all about it.
If I'm honest, I'd love to say I have a strategy, but I think it's probably one of my weak points in how I utilize social media, because I definitely don't have like a really set system, and it's probably one of the things I need to improve on. But for the most part, I kind of do unboxings and stuff of like new products on TikTok and packing orders to sort of show new things that I've made or coming in my shop. I definitely don't have like a very, strategic mindset when it comes to social media. I know some people plan out all their posts and stuff and have days that they post. I don't do any of that. I just kind of like, when I've made something, I'll share it. I do sort of sneak peeks on my stories and stuff. And then I mainly just sort of promote sort of new things that I'm making on like Reels and TikTok and stuff. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place if I'm honest, but it's definitely one of my goals to improve.
I tried the whole strategy thing of like planning ahead, and it made it seem like such a chore. And I think ultimately, I've realised as a creative person, I like the idea of being consistent. It's the practicalities of being consistent that doesn't quite work with how my brain works.
Yeah, I think I'm probably similar in that sense. I think it'd take all the joy out of actually doing what I'm doing if I had to be so sort of on it all the time, and specific timings, and kind of, I don't know, because obviously a lot of what our posts are, if I was like, oh, I've got to do this many posts a week, then it's like forcing myself to draw this many things a week, which then would just take all of the joy out of even doing it. So it's definitely difficult. I'm definitely not as consistent with stuff as I used to be, but it's kind of one of those ones where I think I had less that I had to do in the beginning, so I could draw more. Whereas probably now, sadly, I probably can't do as much drawing and things as I did before, because I have so many hats on now.
Yeah. And like, do you know when you film the Reels and TikToks, do you post them like that day, or do you like wait and like schedule them a little bit? Is it just like a spontaneous thing?
Well, I'll film them, and then I'll procrastinate editing them for a while, and then they sit in my editing app for a little bit, and then sometimes it's so bad that it gets to a point where the stuff's so old and dated, there's no point even editing and post. It's like I've recorded weeks ago. And then sometimes I'll just have a session of just editing them all, and then I'll kind of stagger them, or I'll usually when I've just edited something, I'm in a rush just to post it. I'm like, let's get this done. But yeah, the system that I have is not the most ideal. But yeah, sometimes I'm really on it. Before like a shop update, I'll kind of record a bunch in a week, and then I'll just kind of spend a day just editing them all, because it takes a really long time to edit TikToks and Reels. You'd think it'd be so quick because they're like a minute long, but it takes actually way longer than you'd expect. So I'll kind of spend a day editing them all, and then I'll kind of draft them up and just kind of every day or every other day kind of upcoming to a shop update, maybe post different ones. But yeah, it's definitely a bigger job than you ever think it will be, sort of doing 1 minute videos.
I agree though, because I'm the same. So I like record something with great intentions, and then the further up my camera roll it gets, the less likely it's going to get that I'm going to edit it. And I don't know why. I think my brain's just like over that, even if it's not a seasonal thing and it can still be relevant. I'm a bit like, eh. And with reels and stuff, the 1 minute is hard. I feel like you have to think a bit more, because you've got to get all the information in such a small amount of time. Editing them just take, I find, more brain power. That's why I obviously upload more on YouTube and don't upload shorts as much.
I think my problem is I record way too much. Like, it'll be a 1 minute reel and I have like half an hour of footage, and I'm like, what is this? I haven't mastered the art of doing tiny little clips and then just like editing them down a little bit. I have like a whole 3 minute, 4 minute clips, and then I'm like, why have I recorded 4 minutes of me doing this like for a 1 minute video? Like, a lot of it is just having sort of mindset to know how to record videos as well as edit them too, because I think you can make it much harder on yourself if you're not very efficient with how you record things.
Yeah, you almost have to like sort of have the idea in your head first and then film with that in mind. But I guess that takes practice. And I've been doing YouTube for 10 years now, and I still end up with clips that are like 30 minutes long. And I'm like, what? Why? I like hate my fat past self because I've just given myself half an hour longer to edit now.
Yeah, I'm just like that. Anytime I see a really long clip, I'm like, oh, let's just do a little speed up on that. 3 times speed.
Quick time lapse. What editing software do you use actually?
So for TikToks and Reels, I use an app called CapCut. And then for vlogs, I use Final Cut.
Yes, me too. And you know what? I'm trying to teach myself Premiere Pro to edit these podcasts. And you know what, guys? If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I apologise in advance because it's so difficult. So big up Final Cut Pro, because it is definitely the easier one of them. So sort of moving on a little bit to your Patreon, I see you promoting a lot of things on there actually. So I think it was yesterday, maybe you shared some wallpapers. Tell me a little bit about what you share on that, and again, like sort of how you started and where it is now.
Yeah, so I do sort of a mixture of content. So I do physical rewards, which will be like a kind of a print and a sticker each month. And then I do digital rewards like phone wallpapers, like desktop backgrounds and matching icons and stuff. I do sort of a monthly podcast thing, obviously just myself though, not quite as high tech as this. And then I do sort of exclusive videos and time-lapse videos and stuff, me drawing. So it's like a mixture of lots of different content, and you can kind of choose which tier and what kind of content you want to get each month. So yeah, it can go really well. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. It kind of was just a natural progression of what I was doing. Like a lot of other creators that I follow did it, and I just thought, why not? I'll see how it goes. So it's been a nice little steady kind of separate income stream for me over the years. And yeah, it's just a nice other way to sort of give a bit extra as well to people that really appreciate what you're doing. And I've got some really nice loyal patrons, so that's really nice.
That's nice. And so it feels like, it almost sounds like, I guess, another social media platform. Like, how do you keep up with that? Like, every month you've got to think of X amount of things to do. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how I do either. Some months it gets to the start of the month and I'm like, oh my God, again. It's kind of become such a routine now. Like, I have sort of, I don't know if you have used Notion, but like an online planner thing. And I basically have like a template that I use each month for everything that I need to do. And every time a new month starts, I just kind of duplicate the template and start again, basically. But I kind of have the set things that I do. So it kind of makes it easier now because I sort of do things almost the same every month. Like, I'll sort of, in the first week, I'll always do wallpapers and like polls on different things, like people vote for different things. And then by the end of the month, I'm sending out the rewards and doing the video. So it's kind of like every month is the same now. So I've kind of got into a groove with it where I'm pretty much always doing the same thing on the same weeks kind of thing. So it's definitely become easier over time. But at first, balancing it with doing the shop and doing that was just a lot. And some months it's harder than others when I've got more on, but it's kind of just, I don't know, been one of those things over time where it's become more of my routine now. So
do you find some months it like comes around really quickly again? You're like, oh, I've just got it all out of the way, and then here it is again.
No, literally, like I think that was what this month felt like. Like I felt like I'd only just drawn the rewards for January and I was already doing February's, and I'm like, I swear I just drew those like a week ago.
How do you come up with the themes for the actual drawings? Do you have like I don't know about you, but I have a notes app full of ideas and it's just like chaos. How do you like piece ideas together?
It's a bit similar to that. Sometimes I will just write random things down that make probably no sense to anyone else, but in my mind, it'll make sense in there. And then a lot of it is like patrons will sort of give suggestions of things they'd like, or they'll vote on things. So I'll maybe draw like a few different sketches up and they'll vote for their favourite. But yeah, it's definitely just like a mixture of Pinterest, again, a chaotic notes app, and then people's suggestions. And then it helps when there's months like where there's certain themes, sort of like Christmas time and autumn and stuff. They lend themselves to an easier kind of month in terms of designing. But some months it's just kind of like what do I do in March? That's when the fear kicks in.
That's good though that you've created a community that like understand. And has there been like occasions where you've like maybe missed a thing and you just like, I don't know, like when I miss an upload, I feel so guilty, but actually in the grand scheme of things, I don't think anyone really minds. Like they understand that people are people and it's just normal to need a break.
Yeah, it's definitely happened to me. Like times when I felt that obviously I got married last year, so that was a time where just so much was going on sort of towards the end of last year. And when I moved house and stuff, there's times where I just couldn't do like say the exclusive video. It took a lot more in terms of recording and editing. When I've been ill and I've not been able to record the podcast because like my throat hurts or something. So, and I'll sort of say, and I'll always feel really guilty and be like, oh God, I just feel like I'm letting people down because they've sort of subscribed for this thing and they're not receiving it. And then I always try and kind of do like sort of double in a different month to kind of make up for it. But people understand and people are just like, well, yeah, of course you're not going to record a podcast when you're ill. Like, why would you feel bad about that? But
yeah, I think it's when you know that there's like money in there and like it's valuable and you understand how hard people work for their money because you work hard for yours. Like you feel guilty, don't you? You feel a bit like a sense of responsibility to like provide that thing. But again, you're on like the fast road to burnout if you just push through it too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not the way to work. Like you can't be pushing yourself to your limit every single week or every single month. Like you have to kind of give yourself a little bit of credit and just give yourself a bit of a break sometimes. So yeah, if it doesn't feel like you can, I don't know, for me, I just have to listen to our body sometimes and be like, it's too much at the moment. I'm sure people understand. They always do because people understand.
In the true spirit of Creativity Unfiltered, I've been asking all the guests, has there been any like silly mistake or setback that you've encountered? What was it and did you learn from it?
The one that I think probably has been the biggest sort of learning curve for me was in the first year of sort of doing what I'm doing, I had like major burnout. It was like the worst, like just such a breakdown of just stress. It was just awful. And basically this time when this happened, I was making everything to order. And what happened is I posted some TikToks and they blew up. Amazing, obviously. But it kind of got to a point where I couldn't fulfill orders efficiently because I was making everything to order. So every single day I'd be like making everything for all these orders. I just had this system that wasn't prepared for a volume of orders and just hadn't really anticipated it to happen and basically caused myself to burn out because it wasn't like just a few days of non-stop packing orders. It was like weeks and weeks and weeks of just relentless orders. And obviously it sounds great, but if I'm honest, it's not really the sort of life that I'd like to lead. I much prefer making less money and not being that burnt out. After that, I kind of decided to change the way that I did my shop and only made a certain amount of products and only sold what I had. Obviously, it does mean you don't sell as much, but it just is much better for your mental health. You can't just be doing an infinite amount of things. It's just too much. So managing sort of things like that and making it so it's doable for yourself when you're a one person, a one-man band and you're doing it all by yourself, like it's not worth it. No amount of money is worth being so burnt out. So yeah, I think that's probably a big one for me. The system that I have now is so much better, and I don't burn out quite as frequently. Still just happen now and then, but not to the extent it did. So
Yeah, and it's interesting, you now you outsource some things, right?
yeah.
Was it daunting, like going to these manufacturers and being like, hello, I'd like to order some things?
It is genuinely terrifying. At first, I remember like some of the first things I ever ordered. I remember like when they arrived, sort of shaking as I was opening them because I was thinking, oh my God, I've spent hundreds of pounds. It's so scary. Like it was the biggest risk at the start of my business. So obviously now it's kind of less scary because I've kind of found manufacturers I'm comfortable with. But it's definitely one of the biggest plungers when you're a small business. It's so scary to sink that much money into something and not know, A, if it'll sell, B, if it's even going to look good. And obviously, a lot of times you do get things where things mess up. Most of the time, it's not really been my fault, but it's been manufacturers' faults. But that's definitely a big jump when you go from making everything yourself and like, especially when you're a perfectionist and you do all the quality control and you're like, I know that everything I'm putting out is to a standard I'm happy with. And then just sending off and just sort of being like, hopefully that's going to be okay. And just kind of having to go with it. It's a big jump. But I think I'm at a point now where I've got my manufacturers that I feel comfortable with. There's still new things I want to make that I'm kind of scared to make because they just seem way more daunting and I've not found manufacturers for them. But I think the more experience you have talking to different ones, the more comfortable you get sort of knowing what you want and what's sort of red flags and stuff. So it's definitely a daunting process. But you do get to a point as well where you just can't produce certain things yourself. Obviously, I can't make things as high quality as some factories can make things high quality, even if I did small batches. So yeah, it's just kind of knowing what your skills are and what you have to kind of outsource as well.
Yeah, it's like managing your time. Like, yes, you could make it yourself, but really, if you're spending all your time, like you did when all those orders came in, making the stuff, you can't make the new stuff. And when you were looking for your manufacturers, like how did you go about that when you first started?
So at first it was kind of very much like just me going to Google and searching notepad manufacturer and then just kind of looking on the first page and kind of sort of trying to find ones. At first I pretty much always stayed in the UK because I just wasn't really sure about getting things manufactured overseas, but I would basically just try and find UK manufacturers and just kind of compare the prices and sort of see what would be most feasible in terms of how much I'd want to sell it for. And I still find manufacturers that way, to be fair, like just literally just Googling and just sometimes it is a case of just ordering stuff and just hoping and praying. As bad as it sounds, it's just kind of what you have to do sometimes. And then some manufacturers I found through sort of word of mouth, like I've seen people sharing about them, even just if you have like a nice like group of art friends or friends that do the same sort of thing as you, and you'll be like, oh, like where, if you don't mind me asking, where do you get this? So they say the same to you and you kind of trade manufacturers. I've done that before. And then in recent years, I've used Alibaba, which is kind of like a marketplace for manufacturers. But obviously, a lot of those are based in China. So there's certain things that you can't really get made in the UK as much because we don't manufacture quite as much as, say, somewhere like China. So certain things I get from there. And that's the case, again, that's a whole different kind of thing where you do really look at each individual business and how long they've been open. There'll be a lot of sort of parameters on there for sort of things like gradings of like how long they've been open, if they've got good customer service, if, you know, sort of a lot of things to look out for there. I found a lot through there, and a lot of that, again, is just kind of looking for the right things and then also taking a bit of a leap of faith and being like, hopefully it's going to be okay. I've not had any really, really bad ones, to be honest. I've had things here and there, but I don't think I've had anything that's been terrible. So I feel quite lucky thus far, but it's mainly just, I think paper goods are kind of the more, funny enough, the more tricky thing because just colours and there's a lot more that can go wrong, I found, with that. But yeah, a lot of it is just getting on Google and Trustpilot and taking a leap of faith.
So just going back to, it was an interesting point when you mentioned about like, you're not bothered about making like bucket loads of money. You just want to do nice things. And I feel like this is a theme that I've been going through during these episodes, that actually I think it depends on what goals you set for yourself. Because for me, I think on the face of it, you're like, oh, I want to be rich, I want to do this, like, oh my God, that person's running this huge warehouse. And actually stripping it back down, it's more for me about what makes me happy. And ultimately, I just want to pay the bills, be able to go on holiday, be able to treat myself to some nice clothes and go out for dinner. Would you say that you've got a similar mindset in terms of like goal setting, and has that sort of shifted over the years?
Yeah, I think I've literally got the exact mindset that you have, in that I just want to be able to pay what I need to pay each month and just sort of live a nice, comfortable life, which I think, I feel privileged enough as it is to be able to do that as someone that works for themselves. It's not an easy feat. So for me, it's really never been about making this huge business and having a warehouse and it being bigger than myself. I kind of like it being contained to just me at the moment. Obviously, I wouldn't mind if it got to a point where I had a few helping hands, but even then I wouldn't really want it to be more than what it is now. I kind of like that it lets me just live this nice, comfortable life and like just get to work from my own home and do what I want to do. I think starting out, I think maybe I might have thought that I might want something bigger. And then as I sort of worked towards that, and when it was sort of a lot more successful at one stage, I kind of realized I didn't enjoy it and I wouldn't want it to be any bigger than that, because even that was kind of more than what I could handle. So yeah, I think a lot of it is, yeah, like you said, just about goals. Some people, and power to them, want to sort of take it as far as they can and do as much as they can and make as much money. And I think that's great if that's your ambition. But for me, I don't really have that ambition about making a lot of money. I just have the ambition of making art and living like my happy little life. So
Yeah, we live our little happy indoor lives.
exactly.
So just to sort of wrap things up, do you have any tips for maybe your younger self, something that you wish someone had told you that you can share with our audience?
I'd probably say to my younger self just to have a bit of confidence in herself and actually think that it was possible to do something like this as a living. I think a lot of what took me so long to actually start making art and doing it again was that I just didn't think I was good enough. So I didn't see the point in even bothering, which is kind of sad. And I think anyone else that's younger, I think a lot of the things that hold you back from doing something like this is just the confidence in the self-doubt. So yeah, I'd just tell her she can do it and just to do what makes her happy.
Yeah, and then maybe have a drunken Alice tell you way too many times on a night out that you need to do it too. Thank you so much for chatting with me and coming on the podcast. I feel like you've had a lot of insights to share.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope it's come across in a sort of concise way. I'm kind of worrying that I babbled a bit, but
oh no, we love a babble on this podcast. And of course, I'll leave all Laurel's information and things in the description. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time for another one.